Hi, I'm Dylan from Velocity Tech Solutions, and today we're going to be doing a video on the installation of an HP DL380 Generation 6 server. So first we're going to take your new mainboard. Now depending how you received it, it may not have a power supply cage installed. So we're going to first go about installing the power supply cage from your original board if you had to take that off. So first things first, you'll kind of line it up so that the screw holes are matching, and also so that if you look over here, the slot that the power supply distribution board actually plugs into should be able to push down flushly and get screwed in. It can be a little bit of a pain because of the positioning of it. There we go. You'll know it's in the proper position when the thumb screw will just screw in very easily. Now that we've got that, we'll screw in the screws. Now it helps to have the magnetic screwdriver since you do have to go through these little holes. So first, go in. I'm going to do that for each of the following three screws. Again, it takes a little bit of dexterity to get inside the proper hole. There we go. And then we'll get the last one. That honestly can be the biggest pain about installing this. So now that we've got that, we're going to actually install the board into the machine itself. So first things first, you're going to take your cables. I like to kind of direct them up here so they don't get inside your way. And then kind of angle the board so it goes under there. And again, make sure those cables are out of your way. It should lay into place and go onto a set of guiding rails that will kind of keep it secured. Next, we'll get the two thumb screws on the front of the board. We'll secure it to the bottom of the server. And then the last thing we need to do is find the last little screw that you took out on the back of the machine. Oops. Helps to not drop the screw. And then screw it into this hole right here. There's an awkward angle for an electric screwdriver. So now that we've got that, we'll reinstall your processor and everything else that's on the board itself. So we'll open up the cage. Now as always, be careful with the pins. They can be damaged, and if you do that, that will very potentially destroy the board, or at least make it unusable. So, we're going to take your proc. Now you'll notice that there's two indents on the proc itself. I'll line up with the two indents on the socket. Take the proc, lower it in, and it should just fall right into place without any force. If it feels like you're forcing something, you probably are, and you probably shouldn't be doing that. So, lastly, apply some thermal paste onto the proc itself, and then install the heatsink. Now you'll notice that there's something on it that says 1 pin, and you'll also notice that on the cage itself there's one end with 2 pins and one end with 1 pin. Line it up, and it should just sit into place. Then this will secure it down so that it makes good contact with the processor itself. Next, we'll install your memory. As simple as just lowering the slots, and you've probably already done this before, so don't really have to go over it. Now that we've got that, we'll lastly get all the cables that are connected onto the board itself. You'll take your SAS cables that are coming here from your backplane, and you should be able to notice the way it's kind of designed, one will be closer to you than the other, so it's very easy to tell which one goes into where. Push them in until you kind of hear the click and they're secured. And lastly, we'll take these cords on the left hand side and plug in your backplane power, and then the I/O control for the front panel on the machine itself. And we'll just lower that into place. That should secure. And the last thing you're going to be doing is installing the shroud and then the riser. So the shroud can be a little bit tricky just because the wires will kind of be blocking it a little. But you should be able to get it secured. You'll also kind of notice it should be pretty obvious. There's little indents that kind of go in between each fan. So you should be able to know when it's inside its proper place. Lastly, we'll take your riser. Now with this, it helps to kind of, or at least it helps for me. I'll kind of look, you'll notice this is kind of indented in, so you can kind of notice it'll line up with the right hand side and the left hand side, and it should just lower into place. You should be able to hear it snap. That'll be pretty much the card actually securing into the riser slots on the board itself. And lower this so it's flat. And then get the 5 thumb screws that are going to be securing it into place. There's the front ones. And these 3 in the rear. Now if you plan to replace anything in here often, these rear ones, if you're not going to be moving a server, they aren't necessarily required for it to work, but it's always recommended you actually screw everything in. Then lastly, get your power supplies. Push them into place. And put on the lid, and you should be good to go. Anyways, this is Dylan again from Velocity Tech Solutions, and hopefully this was able to help you with the installation of the motherboard.